Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us in this session. Today, we're going to talk about data empowerment, which is a concept that we've come up with in response to what we hear back from our customers here at Quest in terms of challenges as they go through, digital transformation and modernizing their capabilities using platforms like Couchbase. And really helping them make sure that when they get there to that new platform, they don't just realize the benefits of this modernized application, but they really realize the benefits across the board with all of the challenges that we face today. So we're gonna go through it, take a look at what data empowerment is. Then we're going to look at a couple of specific use cases where it can really help you achieve success with Couchbase, and then finish it off with some questions at the end. So when we look at what's driving change in your organizations, in our organization, in just about every organization that we deal with our customers, there's a lot of things going on, right? We all know about digital transformation. We all know that we need to get a better presence, a more agile and robust ability to deal with customers in any way that they want to deal with us. But now we've got a lot of other things that go along with that. How do we get to true digital transformation? Well, we've had the pandemic. We've seen some definite business impacts there. We've seen, data getting a lot closer to the edge and farther afield than we're used to it being when it comes to things like privacy, security. We've got compliance and data privacy legislation that continues to roll on top of all of the other regulations that we need to deal with. There's nefarious players out there looking for our data, trying to get that data, and holding that data ransom so that they can make money and at the threat of disrupting our business. All the while, we've got data proliferating, so much more of it now. People want to be able to democratize their data and really get it into the hands of the people that are bringing value to the business that comes from that data. And then, of course, there's just that basic capability of to truly support digital transformation. You need to modernize your applications. You need to get new platforms like Couchbase that are going to enable you to build applications that act in the way that you want, real-time analytics, that ability to really give your customers a truly compelling experience as they're dealing with you. And then, shifting to the cloud to support that through, the pandemic, through, crazy weather that we've got, all sorts of things going on. So, when you look at it, there's a lot of different aspects that are driving change. It's not just changing some infrastructure and creating some new apps. It's really thinking about this entire world and how all of these, drivers are interrelating with each other and affecting each other, because none of them happen in a vacuum. And when we look at, organizations, the other thing that's really going on here, and as a guy who's been involved in data for my entire career of 30 plus years now, I think data is finally getting its due. A lot of the time early in my career, it was all about the infrastructure, making sure that you had the best infrastructure that was performing the way that you want. Then it all became applications. Oh, it's all about building apps and what the apps are. But now organizations truly are looking at data as a strategic asset. And you see lots of statistics out here in terms of, more than 75% of organizations agree that their data is the key differentiator, that they have to get a better capability around their data end to end, or they'll be, facing disruption from their competitors because they know the competitors are doing the same thing. When they're looking at things like data governance, they're really getting a strong alignment and wanting a strong alignment with their data protection strategy, because data governance gives you that view into what data you have and what data is going to be of particular interest to those nefarious players. They're trying to bring automation in to reduce latency and really getting data to the places it needs to be through data pipelines, in real time. So looking at automation across the board. And 80% of new data is being replicated and distributed all the way out to endpoints and at the edge. A lot of real-time data out there. So all of this is really sort of changing the playing field that we're on and making it much more challenging to not just meet our business goals of delighting our customers, but doing it in a way that does not put our organizations and our customers at risk and really sets us up to meet the next set of changes that are going to come, because change is not a one and done. Change is, I think, going to be the rule of the day moving forward. So it's going to be constant change. It's going to be constant adjustment. So these are the things that you guys and we are looking at as we move forward in this modern world with all of these interesting and maybe not so interesting aspects that are making it, difficult for us to do that. So the net is, we're seeing all of our customers looking at being data driven and transforming their business from the data out. So instead of data being sort of a part and parcel, just another thing that needs to go along with it, they're really using that data to be the foundation of what they wanted to deliver to their customers. And that data is not just the data that they need to make their business decisions. They want that data to be there to actually drive the planning and analysis that goes into our transformation so that we are truly ready for, today's challenges and the challenges of the day after that and the day after that. So, very, very, different way of looking at things. But there's some challenges with that as well, because if we look at some other statistics, excuse me there, we look at 94% of organizations have 6 different types of data that they're managing across at least 10 different types of technologies. So it's not just a simple thing where we have a bunch of relational databases from Oracle that are sitting in our data center and everything is running off that and it's all moving within that world. Now we're needing to get modern data platforms to manage different types of data and structure that data in ways that it can be more more agile and more reactive to the needs that we have. Things like NoSQL with Couchbase. And on top of that, 95% of those organizations are doing this in some sort of hybrid model where they have, private cloud, public cloud, some level of on-prem, especially for companies that have a long legacy of systems that have been built and are performing the role that they should be performing. So it's a very complex world out there, and that complexity is coming out in certain ways that are not good for the business. One of the most glaring statistics that I see constantly is data native workers. So people that are either working on the IT side managing data, and even more so on the business side where people are actually leveraging data to deliver value to their organization. They're spending upwards of 85 to 90% of their time just looking for what data they need, trying to understand if the data is fit for purpose, and then, understanding how they can get access to that data with, 10 to 15% of their time actually delivering insights to the business. And that's a ratio that just cannot stand. So it's a ratio that as we go through these transformations really needs to be addressed. And if you look at what Gartner's talking about, especially around data literacy, which is becoming more and more of a topic as we look at true data democratization, less than 50% of the organizations have sufficient literacy skills to take advantage of their data. And then finally, there's a really unbelievable statistic that I've seen out there, quoted from many different sources, Gartner being one of them, that more than 50% of the data that we have stored and managed that we're spending money on in our organizations are dark data. they're not being used for any true business value or business purpose beyond just registering that data through the transaction. So again, a lot of value and a lot of goodness being left on the table because we have a complex environment, because it's taking us too long to figure out if the decisions that we're making on the data are backed up and that we trust the data that is fed them. And really, folks just don't understand what data is available to them to help them do their job. And then obviously, the downstream impact of that is a lot of wasted time, a lot of ad hoc requests, a lot of latency in terms of getting to value with the data and the new platforms that are delivering it, because it just takes too long and everybody has different priorities. And generally, when you're asking somebody in IT for help around their data, you are priority 11 on a list of 10. So it sounds scary, but at the end of the day, it just is another thing that we need to adjust to. And as we look at how people can be successful in this world, we've come up with this concept of data empowerment, which means anything that you're doing, no matter what it is, whether you're changing the way you do business, whether you're bringing in new business models, whether you're building new applications or modernizing old applications to serve your customers, that you really need to look at and have intelligence around your data. And intelligence around your data comes from bringing together three very, very important disciplines. Data protection, where you really look at data, in terms of, the traditional definition of data protection is backup and recovery. And that is absolutely at the core of it and very, very important. But then looking at your ability to get into that data and make sure that you can audit, that you're in compliance, that you have all of the policy and access management looked after so the data is not going to people that shouldn't be seeing that. And then data security and endpoint management, where, talking one of our customers, Australian government, they found out the biggest risk to their data was actually the USB ports in their computers, because people were taking data home to do some work on the weekend, leaving it on that thumb drive, and then the kids are taking the thumb drive to go do something else. Next thing you know, the thumb drive gets left somewhere, and now you've got some very important information sitting out there. So really hardening the endpoints where data is being consumed is also part of data protection. Then we get to operations, because we can make people aware of data. We can tell them that it's democratized. We can give them the ability to play with that data without having to get technical people involved. But at the end of the day, if that data is not performing well, you've still got a real problem there, because again, data needs to be where it needs to be when it needs to be there. So looking at and making sure that you have full control over data movement, whether it's traditional ETL or ELT, modern ELT approaches, or just pure data replication, and making sure that it's secure and understood throughout that entire process. Very important. Data modeling, I've done another session at this conference about the importance of data modeling being successful with Couchbase. But data modeling is important, not just from the integrity of your data, but for the performance of your data. And once it's out there, making sure that your systems are performing, that you can monitor that, whether you're benchmarking your as is, or whether you're measuring the performance of a new platform potentially out on the cloud, and seeing if it's doing what it is that it's supposed to be doing. And then, of course, there's data ops or data DevOps, however you want to describe that, in preparation, being able to get data into a form easily and quickly from a number of different sources, so that the folks like data scientists, business analysts that are leveraging that data don't have to be technical experts in terms of bringing data together. It's there, it's in a form that they can make use of. And then, of course, data governance, cataloging your data so that people can understand what data assets are available to them, providing them a business layer so that they can address that data in their own language and the way they look at it, not from a technical perspective, so that they can easily find out what that data means, how it relates to different aspects of the business, what the lineage of that data is. understanding the level of quality in different aspects and different data sources so that people can pick where they're going to get the best results. And then, of course, having a good view and enterprise architectural intelligence, understanding what are your business goals, what are your motivations, your strategies, what are your business capabilities, your business processes, and then the applications and infrastructure that support that. All of this is important because when you're looking to, deliver new capabilities to the business, it's not just the application, it's not just the customer experience, it's all of these other things that are underpinning to make sure that it performs well, that it's protected and not putting your organization at risk, and that people can understand how to use that data, how not to use that data, and if the data they have in front of them really means what they think it means. So, data protection, we've got inefficient backups, right, that are taking, windows out of production cycles. Mitigating the risk of restores, right? We all are at the mercy of GDPR and other data privacy perspectives. Someone may have asked to be, anonymized or forgotten as part of their rights under that legislation. Then you go and restore some data. How do you mitigate that data against the processes that may have been applied against it? How do you optimize storage costs? When you're looking at storage and secondary storage, managing access to data, who should be able to get access to it, who shouldn't, right? And, you can't go too wide to make it easy to manage, but then you can't make it so restrictive that people can't get their data. And then again, hardening those endpoint devices and making sure that you have an efficient and effective life cycle management of those devices. Because what we don't want is somebody who's been using a lot of sensitive data and has that on their end device, and then they leave the company, the machine gets left behind. We give it to somebody else who may not have those same, permissions, but that data might still be there. So how do you destroy things like sensitive data that are out at the endpoints to make sure that they don't go to places where they shouldn't be? When you look at operations, well, I have a litany of stories of poorly planned cloud migrations where, they think they're going out to the cloud, they're going to get all this, performance and economic benefit where they're, paying for what they use as opposed to building something and maintaining a large infrastructure that they may or may not be using fully. Well, a lot of folks get out to the cloud and realize that the way that their applications are architected are costing them way more than they thought they would when they used the cloud provider's calculator. So being able to understand what is the benchmark we have today and what should we expect and how is that going to push out into economic impact as well. We're always at a debt when it comes to IT skill gaps, especially as we have these, more and more complex infrastructures with lots of different tools and lots of different capabilities. Do we have the people that can actually make the most of that? So that's something they're challenged with. Lack of DevOps agility and efficiently, which is disrupting data pipelines, right? So as new requirements are coming in, are we getting them to the people that need them in a efficient and effective way? And then, of course, balancing that always on need to have data always there versus cost. Of course, data sprawl and reactive firefighting, which takes a lot of time and really moves you away from innovation and has you spending your time, and money just trying to fix things or figure things out to see if they actually need to be fixed. And then, of course, governance, limited data visibility, limited understanding of data across the board from all different perspectives. Whether it's, a CIO trying to understand if we have a risk from our data, if we're, if our systems are performing, what systems do we have? We need a single source of the truth where people can all come together, understand the data quality, understand the infrastructure, understand the roadmap of that technology, what's coming down the pipe, when are new things going to be delivered. and then a place where people can get together and really start to build communities and really, social apps around their data so that they can become, much more skillful at it, understand people that can help them, share experiences, the whole social approach to things is there for data. Risk management, regulatory compliance. We've got whole, sections of the organization that are out there. Do they have a clear view of what data is in the organization and what potentially is at risk? All of this, ends up meaning slow time to value for data initiatives because a lot of this stuff needs to be looked after the fact and isn't planned and baked into the cake as we go and put that cake into the oven to create something new. So, data empowerment, we know that there's three key aspects to it, but now let's try to put it into terms that really mean something to you guys, because if you're not in governance is an interesting thing, but it's over there. If you're not in protection, it's an interesting thing. But these are hopefully initiatives that all of you can relate to. Things like application modernization or migrating, apps and data to the cloud, sensitive data governance, model-driven DevOps. All of these things, are things that you're undertaking and initiatives within your organization that are very, very important. But unfortunately, we have a very narrow view, which is kind of looking at what is this new thing that we're going to deliver to the business, and how is it going to act and how is it going to perform? And is it going to meet the needs of the business in terms of delighting our customers? But the reality is that there's much more than that. So as you're starting to, plan and deliver these initiatives, you really have to look at it from a much larger viewpoint. Financial and operational performance. As I said, the cloud is not the panacea unless you do the cloud right, which means, you could be incurring a lot more costs than you planned on. And now people are going to be coming back at you. And everybody knows that, building something right the first time is a lot cheaper than fixing it once it's been built. There's lots of metrics out there that show, that sort of exponential cost of something that's, changing something that's in production as opposed to, catching defects early in there in the life cycle and doing it before you actually put a lot of hands to keyboards to build something. Making sure that your developers and end users, maintain their productivity through this transition, making sure that your security, privacy, compliance, and governance needs are there on day one, right? So that you do not put yourself at risk through that transition or once that transition is complete. Making sure that what you're building is well aligned to the business and is delivering the service that they're looking for. Making sure you're not losing or degrading the data and the information that people get from that, data through this process. Visibility and insights, through the entire process so that you can help with the business case, so that you can, communicate and articulate the plan, the roles and responsibilities, and understand what the impacts are going to be so that you can plan for those impacts and mitigate any risk associated with them. And then, of course, data quality, literacy, these are key and very important because just because you put something in a new place that's more agile and performs better doesn't mean that people are going to make better use of what they're getting from that application if they're not well educated on it and have, a clear visibility into what it is that they're looking at, what it means, and what the quality is. All of this, looking at automation so that we can take some of the latency out of the process and manual tasks and manual intervention requirements. And then, of course, intelligence across the board, because what you've done through this process should be able to help you in the next initiative and the one after that. And you should be getting smarter and better at doing this as you go through these initiatives and cycle through to bring your organization to that level of transformation that you're really seeking to achieve. So, how does data empowerment help with cloud migration? Well, here's a quick look into a sort of three-part step where, you really should be benchmarking, migrating, and then optimizing and tuning. It's not just moving something to the cloud. So, making sure that you have a clear benchmark of what your workloads and costs are. Make sure that you have your data classification, your data governance, especially around sensitive data. Making sure that you understand where these things are being backed up and where they're being stored so that any changes that you make are going to be accounted for so those things don't break. Migration, well, you may be just moving a workload and lifting something and putting it on the cloud, migrating data to that with integrity, but you may be actually lifting something, let's say out of a Teradata data warehouse and putting that out into a completely different structure. So in my other session, we talked about schema migration, moving to Couchbase, making sure that you have all of the logic and investment that was made in whatever you're transforming and migrating to something like a Couchbase on the cloud, as well as all of the infrastructure for data movement and the things that feed that. And then, of course, once it's there, be able to monitor and understand both the operational performance and the cost so that you're not going to break the bank and that you are getting what you thought you would get as you got to this environment. Sensitive data governance, again, it's a process. Defining what it means in your organization, how it relates to your business, identifying that sensitive data through all of the life cycle, whether that's identifying it as you're building new models or figuring out what you already have as you document those models, and then classifying all sensitive data and set policy and, assign that. So again, data governance, a big part of that. Discovering sensitive data that may not be the normal fit that comes from, say a vertical industry ontology. So being able to go out and profile that data and understand, yes, this looks like it has sensitive data characteristics, and then document that lineage and impact throughout the organization. And then, of course, using patterns to find other things in data that may be something that you need to be concerned with. And then defending that with, the ability to encrypt your sensitive data all through the life cycle. One of the biggest risks is, people using production data in a test environment for a new application. Well, again, that's a risk, and that's a place where you may need to mask or redact that data to make sure that it's not, putting you out of compliance. The ability to audit sensitive data transactions. And then prioritize and protect your sensitive data. And then, of course, hardening all of the devices that are consuming that so that you don't have any leaks in the ship that are causing issues. And then, application modernization. This one's a bit longer because, again, there's probably a lot more involved in it. But, model. Make sure you understand what the requirements are, how it aligns to the business, what you have today, and what you want to see in the future so that you can start to use that for planning purposes. Again, make sure that you have the ability to migrate all of the infrastructure around that application so that you're not breaking any links and that it's going to perform in the way that you want it to, right down to migrating all of your VMs, your cloud infrastructure, all of that. Make sure that you have the ability to take the data in this new environment and prepare it for people that are going to be using it downstream and have cataloged all those assets so that they know where they are now, how to leverage them, and how they are comprised. Monitoring that environment so that you get the most out of this new infrastructure that you put in place. All of the literacy and governance pieces that you want to make sure that, again, you have data governance on day one and all of the protection that are in the things that are in place so that when you get to this new world and this new application, that it is just as secure and just as protected as it was before you made that modernization initiative. So it's really about having, capability across the board, but also visibility and insights and orchestration as you bring all of these different aspects together. This is how you're really going to become a data-driven enterprise. This is how you're really going to put data at the center of everything that you do and really provide the ROI for all of the efforts that you're making to move to these new environments like Couchbase, and that it's going to give you what you hoped it would give you when you started. So with that, I think we'll kind of finish it off here. You may not know Quest Solutions. I'll admit I was acquired into Quest Solutions earlier this year. I came from a company called Irwin, where we were very much focused on data modeling, data governance. But Quest are really truly the data people. Databases, data protection, data governance. As we bring it all together, come and talk to us, because we're not just, Toad for, a tool for Oracle application development, as Toad is known. We really have solutions end to end that can help you get your arms around and empower anyone with any data that you have in your organization, and make sure that you're successful as you take the time and spend the money to modernize your business for the needs and the challenges that are coming down the road. So with that, I'll say thanks so much. Enjoy the conference, and hope to speak to you while we're there.